Hello, Midnight listeners. You're tuned back into MTR, and I'm Nora Vale, your host and guide through the dark. Before we begin, let me ask you something. Have you ever had a day where you just kept going? Not because you knew where you were headed, not because things were good, just because stopping felt worse. You take another bus, another street, another cup of coffee that doesn't really taste like anything. You tell yourself, I'll rest later. You tell yourself, I'll think about it tomorrow. Most of us have done that. We're very good at it. We learn how to stay busy enough that our own thoughts can't catch up. Tonight's story is about a man who did that for a long time. He moved from place to place, from name to name, from room to room, and all the while, he felt like someone was following him. A shape in the rain, a shadow in glass, footsteps that never quite lined up with his own. He told himself it was nothing, because that's what we do when something feels too big to hold. But sometimes, what we're running from isn't behind us, it's inside us, and it's very patient. This is a story about roads that don't go where you think they do, about the cost of staying in motion, about the moment when the running finally stops. From Murderous Tongues Radio, this is episode 21, The Last Mile. I'm glad you're here. Let's begin.
You wake to rain like you always do. Already falling, already old, as if the sky started hours before you caught up. The depot roof leaks at the seams. A bus exhales and pulls away. Tiles shine like the inside of a shell. You don't know what city this is, not exactly. You've stopped needing the names of places. It's enough that the streets are wet and the lights are soft, and you can keep your head down while the rain does its work. You tell yourself you're running from a man. It's easier to run from a man than from a thought. Men have ankles that twist. Thoughts travel how they please. You keep to the edges, a row of newsstands, a cigarette machine that's never been stocked, the shadowed column between two grimy panes of glass. The map on the depot wall shows a tangle of routes crossing out into a gray nowhere. You try to pick one, and your finger pauses over a line that has been traced and retraced by 100 others until the paper tears. Your finger leaves a wet print. You step back. Outside, the rain keeps your secrets. It puts a shine on everything and calls it clean. You pass a bus shelter where a poster smiles through the blur. Teeth too white, eyes too bright. Underneath the face, Elena Cruz. You tell yourself she's an actress, a model, a coincidence, a stranger's daughter raising money for a summer trip. The mind is good at moving a word to another shelf. You say it softly once to test the weight. Elena. And leave it there. A neon sign blinks Maya's in bubblegum pink, its hum softened by water. Inside, the waitress has a name tag that says Maya in letters that might have been cut from tin and painted. She pours coffee in a cup already the color of the rain. You look like you slept on a bus, she says, not unkindly. Something like that, you answer. On the counter, a radio crackles. Whitaker AM. A voice reaching through static to talk about a river cresting and a bridge closing and a new ordinance about parking near schools. The anchor's names roll by and catch on something inside your ribs. Whitaker. You look up at the TV bolted to a bracket in the corner. It's showing a game, then not a game. The TV hums through another commercial break, a local attorney promising clean records and second chances. Call Martinez and Sons, the voice says. We'll help you start fresh. The name catches you wrong. You set the cup down before the tremor shows. When the bell on the door rings and you step back into the rain, The world is softer, but not gentler. A red hand on a crosswalk stutters between stop and walk. Somewhere, a truck downshifts. The sound slides along your nerves like a key along teeth. You think of buying an umbrella, then think of how they turn inside out when the wind changes, and how laughter looks when people are not sure whom it belongs to. You let the rain have you. It is already busy. It doesn't mind. Across the street, under a lamp with a ring of dead bugs glued to its glass, stands a man in a dark coat. He faces you. His hair is rain dark and slicked to his head. His hands are in his pockets. He doesn't move. You do an old math. 2 lanes, 4 cars, a bus blocking the far curb, the time it takes to look away and look back. You look away. You look back. The lamp lights emptiness. The rain runs through the space like a vein relieved of a blockage. Still, something lingers there. A pressure in the air like a word you had meant to say and forgot. You check windows for him after that. Not obsessively, just the way a man might check his fly after leaving a restroom. A quick, embarrassed precaution. In shop front glass, you see your coat too dark to be new. In the curve of a bus mirror, you see a shaped shadow 2 rows back and no one sitting in the seat when you turn. In puddles, you see a black column stitched to your heels. A second spine. It's rain, you tell yourself. You've leaned the wrong way. Light is a liar. The lie sits down and makes itself comfortable. A street sign up ahead has its name crossed over with red paint, thick enough to run like a tear. Nguyen Avenue. Under an overpass, someone has written with a brush that must have been too heavy for the hand that held it. Lila lives. The words shine wet and certain, and you tell yourself it's a band, a protest, a love letter between children. A bus grazes a curb, spraying your shoes. Coincidence hums like power in a wall. Present, contained, useful. You carry on. Night is generous with rain. It resets you. You move from depot to diner to cheap room with a scratchy blanket and an air conditioning unit that coughs like a man behind you in line. You teach yourself the habits of people who do not want questions. Pay in cash, leave early, fold the blankets too neatly so it looks like a mistake. You become very good at being no one. You congratulate yourself on this as if you were teaching a child to swim. But there are those footsteps. At first, they are just a rhythm that aligns with yours. The ear makes a harmony and then cannot unhear it. Down one block, across the next, you accelerate and the echo comes with you. You stop and it stops a moment late, like someone polite enough to pretend he wasn't the one pulling tight the leash. Somewhere a door slams and you decide that was the sound. Somewhere a taxi sprays water and you decide that was it too. The brain is a great assigner. It wants cause the way a mouth wants water. At the motel called Blue Star, the clerk slides a key through a slot as if he has seen 1,000 hands and yours is the same. The ledger lies open, its paper softened from years of damp fingers and cheap pens. You sign on a line you choose at random. Above it, Rosa Martinez in neat cursive. The tail of the Z like the hook of a question mark. You feel an old muscle move in a place you keep closed. You cough to have something to do with your mouth. The clerk doesn't look up. He is watching the rain. You dream that night in the way that isn't quite dream. The TV watches you. Its glow spills across the room. Infomercials sell knives and salvation. Somewhere, a documentary hums beneath it like a basement boiler. Where? When? How? Who? A man speaks with a voice that thinks it knows mercy. You keep your eyes closed. The rain wakes you at 3 in the morning. It has changed key. Softer. Heavier. You stand at the window and press your palm to the glass, and it fogs around the print like breath around your name. In the parking lot, someone in a dark coat walks between the cars. He does not hurry. He does not look up. He passes beneath the blue star sign, and for a second the light breaks. And in the break, the shape does something your brain hates. It wears a different height, a different set of shoulders, a different way of carrying the head. You step back. Your heel touches the bed. You look again, and it is rain and nothing else. The mind is supposed to be the thing you live in. Sometimes it insists on being the thing that lives in you. Morning is a long smear of gray you can't clean from the window with your sleeve. On the radio, a man reads school closure lists and then a number to call for donations. Whitaker says his name again, and by now you are tired enough that the repetition makes your mouth taste of metal. You eat toast you don't remember ordering. A girl at the counter hums a song you can almost place and then empties into nothing like a sink unclogging. You ride a bus to its end because endings are good. They are facts, even if they lead to beginnings you didn't ask for. The driver checks the mirror, and you keep your head down. He calls the route number, and you hear it as a road you can take in your mouth. 19. 19. 19. Across the aisle, a man sleeps with his chin on his chest. His hand is open in a way that looks like it has put something down and walked away. You follow the drift of your own breath until it sinks with the tires hitting seams in the road. Your eyes close and the world shrinks to the hiss of wipers and the low murmur of strangers repeating their lives into phones. You know you slept because when you wake, your neck aches and your hand has creased the receipt in your pocket into a shape meant to be read. In the crease, Whitaker, printed faintly as if the ink regretted the word. You put the slip back and tell yourself you will throw it away. You do not. You keep moving because that's the way to make the rain useful. Keep moving and it hides the past under a new shine. Keep moving and the figure in the dark coat will always be one street away, one window behind, one wet filament beyond denial. There is a night when you cannot invent a distance that will be enough. The city runs out of edges. You come to the rim of it, where the buildings give way like a scalp's hair to the raw skin of freeway. A motel stands there, brave and cheap, the word vacancy blinking in a blue so tired it wants to be white. You walk in. The clerk is a woman with hair that has fought the humidity to a truce. She doesn't bother with the ledger. There is a slip of paper and you sign a name that is no truer than any you've chosen. Out of habit, you glance at the wall behind her where someone has hung a corkboard. A faded handbill. Candlelight vigil. Missing women. 3 counties, 3 years. Names typed too small to be read at the distance you're keeping. Photos in color that time has drained like a wound rinsed under a tap. You turn away. Your key has a plastic fob with the number 19 cracked across it. In your room, the air is already damp. The bed dips where someone else slept in the shape of a question. You sit on the edge and your hands fold themselves as if they'd been taught to pray by a stranger. The TV works at once, like obedience. You find a channel that does not argue. A voice that slides along the surface of things the way rain does. It's the tone the world uses when it wants to be believed. You turn it up and step into the bathroom to run the hot water until the mirror fogs and your face dissolves. This is a trick you've learned. Detach the outline and the person remains unprovable. The voice on the TV softens and hardens around what it's saying until the words line up like people asked to stand over there. Between 1999 and 2002, 5 women disappeared. Authorities believe the suspect used bus lines and short-stay motels along Interstate 19. The broadcast shows houses that look like any house if you don't know which one to be afraid of. The broadcast shows a map with dots that, if you draw a line through them, make a shape like a snare. The broadcast says names, and you are already standing in the doorway, already taking them like communion. Maya Torres, Elena Cruz, Sarah Whitaker, Lila Wynn, Rosa Martinez. In the TV glass, the room stares back. Your silhouette is a cardboard cutout pinned to a light. Behind that silhouette stands a second one, taller by a memory, the shoulders set in a patience you've grown to hate. The rain thickens its applause against the window. Your mouth moves, and the sound it makes is smaller than the word you had intended. What do you want from me? The answer comes from where you keep what is left of your courage. The same pocket where you kept excuses and receipts and key fobs you meant to return to counters you pretended not to see. It is your voice when it is done being afraid. To be heard. Then lightning stutters. The screen whites out, and the world opens under your feet like a trap door that was always there, measured to your weight. White light again, not storm. A long, still light, shaped by clean angles and the breath of machines. Air like paper. A ceiling tile with a crack that draws a tiny map of nowhere and back. Your wrists do not move when you tell them to. The metal is unapologetic. It has its own story about hands. A voice near your head says, "Can you hear me?" It belongs to a doctor whose face knows fatigue as a trade. Another voice farther off says, "Record everything." It belongs to a man who recognizes nothing as miraculous if it does not involve a signature. The room contains 2 officers and a priest, and you count them because counting is control's last sip of water. The officers have learned how to stand a long time without shifting their weight. The priest has learned how to keep his eyes where a person might find them if he decided to speak. The television in the corner still plays the documentary you carried in your mouth through weather and rooms. A banner scrolls its blunt letters the way a clerk pulls a shade down at closing time. Execution of convicted serial killer Miles Turner, halted after botched procedure. The word you used to be hovers like a fly you cannot swat. Convicted. The past tense of a stranger who shares your teeth. The anchor's voice is soaked with that special neutrality reserved for disaster and award ceremonies. Miles Turner was sentenced to death for the murders of 5 women, Maya Torres, Elena Cruz, Sarah Whitaker, Lila Nguyen, and Rosa Martinez. He remains under guard at St. Jude Medical Center after a lethal injection malfunction left him comatose for 4 years. You listen to your name land in the room and take a seat. It is not welcomed. It is not asked to leave. It simply sits. The priest's eyes meet yours and fail to find a place to rest. One officer swallows and looks at the window as if the weather might rescue him from being present. The doctor checks a monitor to give his hands a language. You want to say you don't remember. The word "don't" rots in your throat.
The mind that walked you through rain has been whispering for years, and you had called it weather. It stands now just to your left, dry as stone, wearing no face you can safely call a stranger. It is the man in the coat and the shadow in the window, and the echo of your step arriving a fraction of a second late. It is the part of you that kept pace while the rest begged a change of subject. In the blank black of the monitor's glass, the rainless room throws back a cheap mirror. Your hair is wrong. Your eyes have been one kind of tired too long. The outline behind your outline is not there anymore because it does not need to be. The work is finished. The rain has stopped. The truth did not run. It waited until you did not. A memory tries to force itself through. The brightness of a room that was sincerely clean. The shape of a table that is a table until it isn't. The voice of a man reciting stipulations. The sound your heart made when it decided to lie down. There is a needle, yes, and there is a smallness in your elbow where the skin folds like a letter. There is an apology in a mouth that is not used to saying sorry. There is a white sheet folded the way people fold a thing they intend to use again. You hold your breath, and it feels like you could barter 10 more of them for one less name to carry. Then you let it go, and it does not come back any lighter. You look at the cuffs because that is a thing you can look at that will not look back. The metal has a bite without anger. It does not hate you. It is a noun. The chain between the bracelets is too short for violence, but long enough for thinking. You put the thought there like a ring in a dish beside a sink. You do not intend to wear it again, but you will. You would ask the priest for a word and cannot find one that would forgive you the shape of your mouth saying it. You would ask the officers for water, and the request dies of poor planning. The doctor does not need anything from you except your continued statistical cooperation. Outside the window, the world has the gall to be dry. A parking lot. A sky the color of paper. A flag that has learned stillness. The monitor keeps time as if that were kindness. Beep. Pause. Beep.
For years you gave those footsteps a body, so you could pretend you were being hunted. It was easier to cast yourself as a rabbit than as a trap. Now the pace you had called pursuit turns into the pulse you cannot outrun because it is the thing that runs. The broadcast says your name again, as if the first time had been an accident and the second time the correction. It says the names of the women again, and the syllables do what rain could not. They do not wash away. They settle. They arrange themselves on a shelf built to hold exactly that weight. You think of the girl at the counter humming the song. You think of the smell of lemon oil on the diner counter. You think of the bus driver's voice saying route numbers that sounded like verdicts trying to forgive themselves. You think of the poster with teeth too white. You think of the fob with 19 burned into plastic. The mind is a machine for assembling, and you have denied it parts it had been begging for. It has done its best. It has made you a city large enough to run in and small enough to clean. It has followed you with a man's outline, because that was a shape you would respect. There is a moment available to you, small as a coin, where a man might say, "I did this." You could place the words on the bed beside your hand and watch them sit there, and know that nothing in the room would combust. It would be both less and more than the world deserves. It would be ordinary, like the rain finally letting the dust settle. You open your mouth. The air comes out in a sound that is not language, and the monitors take it as their cue to be busy. The officers step forward because they have practiced stepping forward. The priest lifts his eyes because he has waited to do that. The doctor says your name like it will help. You look at the window and see, for a luxury of a second, the faintest halo where rain would be if rain had permission. It is as if the sky has been rehearsing a mercy and decided against it. You listen for footsteps that are not there and hear them anyway. You wait for the man in the coat to move, and he does not, because he was you, and you are not moving. The rain did what it could. It tried to make the world clean enough for this moment to sit on without rocking. It has stopped because the work is over. The city you built so you could run in has pulled up its streets and folded its lights away like laundry. And what's left is a room full of people and a television that knows your name. The monitor holds the pace. Beep. Pause. Beep. You are very tired. Not from running, from being carried. The mind that walked behind you for years comes and stands where you can see it, if you insist on seeing things that are not there. It does not speak. It does not need to. Truth is the last thing in the room that remembers how to be quiet. Outside, the dry world waits in its ordinary clothes. Inside, you stop calling the sound in your chest footsteps and call it by its other name.
Some people spend their lives believing they're being chased. They run faster, they change streets, they learn new names, and still, something keeps pace. Tonight you heard what happens when a man finally stops long enough to recognize the sound of his own footsteps. When the rain goes quiet, when the running ends, and what's left is a body that cannot move forward, and a mind that no longer has anywhere to hide. A life suspended between waking and forgetting. A punishment without witnesses. A silence that doesn't let you go. Some truths don't announce themselves. They wait until you're quiet enough to listen. Somewhere, a monitor is still counting time. Somewhere, a street light is still blinking. Somewhere, a road is still trying to wash itself clean. And somewhere, someone is standing very still, learning what it means to be seen. Next time, we'll find a diner that stays open long after the road has run out of answers. A room where the lights are never harsh, where the coffee is always ready, where strangers sit for a while and remember how to breathe. This story is witnessed by the door chimes. They don't ring for customers. They ring for moments, for decisions made quietly, for goodbyes that don't use words. Join me for episode 22, The Honeybird. Thank you for staying with me tonight. This has been Murderous Tongues Radio, and I'm Nora Vale. Good night.